It's no secret the NFL has a problem with race. Think Colin Kaepernick. Think Brian Flores. But this isn't a new problem. It's one that started as far back as the 1930s, with a ban on black players in the NFL, with a past that informs the present. Blackballed is a new miniseries podcast from The Ringer about the 4 men who broke the color barrier in football. I'm your host, Chelsea Stark-Jones. You can find Blackballed on the Ringer NFL feed.
This episode is brought to you by Anytime Fitness. We may talk a whole lot about sports, but when it comes to keeping fit ourselves, there's definitely room for improvement. I hit this point early July. I was just like, I am not in good enough shape. I started trying to walk at least 15,000 steps a day, or hiking, or just anything to keep my legs moving. Now it's the end of 2023. I feel great. I had a physical 3 weeks ago, and the guy was like, "You're doing great. You're doing better than you were 3 years ago." I felt great. Whatever your goals are, progress is possible thanks to Anytime Fitness. Get a personalized plan and support from an expert coach anytime, anywhere. Visit anytimefitness.com to try Anytime Fitness for free. Start to train for your life. Terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. See website for details.
Welcome back to another episode of the Ringers NBA Draft Show. My name is Kevin O'Connor, and joining me, as always, is the Ringers J, Kyle, Mann. What's going on, Kyle? How you doing today, man?
Burning the midnight oil. Not literally. I don't have like a lamp over here, but I mean, it's late. It's that time of year, Kev. It's the time of the year where the real ball is life. We're separating the real people from the frauds, right? If you love ball, you're up. You're watching these games, you're excited about it, and my God, it delivered tonight, man. I mean, both of these games were great.
Yeah, we got 2 really, really good play-in games. The Bulls had a nasty second-half comeback. Zach LaVine going off, winning 109-105 on the road in Toronto to eliminate the Raptors. Their season is over. Bulls advance. They're going to play on Friday for the chance to get the 8th seed. And you know what? Facing a Heat team, you never know. And then we see Oklahoma City, youngest team in the NBA, Kyle. They build this. They've been amazing in third quarters all season long. They outscore New Orleans 39-24, build a lead. Pelicans battle back, but Oklahoma City on the road in New Orleans. Hold on, get a 123-118 win. 2 really good games. I love single elimination basketball. I feel like it just makes these games feel like they matter so much, even if these teams are going to get slaughtered potentially in the first round. It's just single elimination is fun. Which game do you want to start with between these 2?
Yeah, they kind of race into a stop sign in a way. I mean, but it is fun. It is fun when there's something to play for. I don't know. Let's start with the one we just watched. It's fresh in mind. I guess we might as well capitalize on that. You good to start with the OKC NOLA game?
Yeah, that's cool with me. I mean, I think with Oklahoma City, dude, I am just shocked. This team is as good as they are, as young as they are. I mean, young teams usually suck. Like, they suck. But this team feels like they're a lot older than that, doesn't it? They feel like more of a veteran team.
Yeah, I mean they had rookies on the floor consistently with the 2 Jalens, and they looked poised throughout, man. I mean, it was Sierra and I when we were talking on The Answer about this matchup, and I just was like, I'm not trying to be too. Sometimes we get so excited about younger teams and maybe we focus too much on them or just, I don't know. But like, I just thought that this matchup with specifically the perimeter players that were going to be involved when you think about the 3-headed monster that OKC has put together. And then you think about the wings and the defenders that New Orleans was going to be able to throw at them. It seemed on paper like it was just going to be a nice matchup of styles. But really what we ended up seeing was a battle of like traditional, like get to the mid-range shot making. They really throughout the game, I mean, Dort tried to physically sort of impose Ingram away from his spots, but Ingram was really deliberate throughout the night and got there and made a bunch of tough shots. It looked like he got fouled on that last 3 at the end there too. The angle wasn't very good. I didn't get a great look at it. But then and then it was a battle of, we've kind of circled this. I think we were maybe going to talk about it a couple weeks ago. But anytime you think about OKC, it's like, this is just a weird trio of guards that they've put together. I called them the avant-gardes a year ago before they added the Jalen without the Y. And it just gets weirder, man. The three of them all over 6'6", the three of them all long wingspans. You think about Giddey is probably 6'8", physically imposing. They're all really weird rhythmically as ball handlers, but they're also super physical, and it just looked like there was no combination tonight where New Orleans could consistently get stops against them to keep them out of the lane.
Absolutely. And I think like there was a drive late in the fourth quarter where SGA is just the way he's negotiating space. It's just like it's a weird rhythm, right? I mean, like I would imagine as a defender, it's unusual to face a guy who's moving at his own speed and yet can just plow through you with power. And with Giddey, whether he's got his the footwork or the spin moves where he's putting his shoulder at 6'8" into you, Jalen Williams, some of the little ball handling maneuvers he has. It's going to be fascinating with Oklahoma City as they build this thing out, because the flaw with them right now, aside from just being young, is they are small. You got Jalen Williams with the Y out there playing, heavy minutes as a floor spacing center. But, that Jalen Williams is 6'9", and he's not like a 7-foot imposing, physically, strong center that can handle Jonas Valanciunas, who had some, buckets inside, dominated the boards and all that. And same thing with Saric coming off the bench. Like Saric played some 3, for the Sixers, back in the day, next to Embiid and Simmons. So I think with this Oklahoma City team, I wonder how they're going to build this out, and make themselves even bigger, because they're massive in the backcourt right now. They're going to add Chet this coming year. It's going to be his rookie season, but he's lean. They just need some beef. But like, this team could be massive with 5 attackers. Like Chet can create in his own way as well. Like this team is going to be really, really hard to defend with 5 guys all big who can create.
Yeah, I don't know how you tackle this if you're OKC. There's a lot of ways you can go at it. I think you're right about Chet, though. It's like Chet will give them some of like the rim protection that they really need, but you're gonna need a little bit more like positional strength. And Jalen with the Y, I've been calling him JY. I don't know the J. I'm still figuring out how to handle all this, but JY he positionally is really strong. But like you saw in like tight spaces when there's a bigger guy down there, he just gets bullied. They're gonna need to figure something out on this front. But like the crazy thing is, man, that like they didn't really shoot it all that well from like they weren't white hot from 3. I thought Giddey did a great job. That's another thing that we need to talk about here. I know we're a draft show, but we like to talk about young players. But like Giddey, in terms of his evolution, he was incredible tonight. 11 for 22 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, so 42, almost 43%. He was great from the line. He had 10 assists, he had 31 points, didn't turn the ball over. There were a couple different, and he punished them every which way. Whenever they he didn't consistently settle for the threes. Whenever Jackson Hayes came into the game, I was cracking up because anytime Jackson Hayes was on the floor and he dropped against Giddey was like, I want him. Like he was like going at him and going to the block and scoring. I think they even have some more. They have some more juice to wring out of Jalen without the Y, like their guard Jalen. Like I think that I came into this game tonight thinking that they were going to need a huge game from him. He didn't play terribly. He just couldn't hit a shot. I mean, he was 0 for 5 from 3, 4 for 14 from the field. But he did have some really good moments, I think, defensively too. They're just big, Kev. And like, I don't know. This is a house money situation for them. Like, you can't lose because you have a lot of options to add somebody. I don't know. Do they need? But I guess the question is, what type of player? What type of center are they going to be able to get by with to like ascend to another level? Does it need to be a really beefy, big, true 5 type guy? What do you think?
I mean, maybe. Well, first of all, just real quick for the Jalen Williams issue, Oklahoma City Thunder fans call Jalen Williams from Santa Clara, Jalen, that Jalen, J-Dub.
Okay.
And then Jalen Williams with the Y, Jaylin from Arkansas, they call him J Will.
Okay.
So it's Jalen Williams Santa Clara equals J Dub, Jalen Williams Arkansas equals J Will, which makes sense. I can see why that works for OKC fans, but for the 29 other fans, if you're listening to a podcast, I think J Dub, J Will is still really confusing.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. I watch this team frequently, and I still to this day, and these are players I've talked about a whole lot, and I'm still just like, we're in the process of figuring it out still.
I think the announcers tonight did well calling Jalen Williams Arkansas, Jalen Williams Santa Clara. Like they did that at times, throwing the college at the end. Do you notice that?
Yeah, JVG kept saying Jalen Williams Arkansas. Yeah, I enjoyed
he said
that.
One of them needs to change their name.
The lesser of them has to change their name. I appreciate it. I was cracking up with that. Yeah.
What you were saying with about adding size, though. Yeah, I mean, I think like every team could use Brook Lopez. You know what I'm saying? Like every team in the NBA could use Brook Lopez, a player who could protect the basket, bring size, and battle with a Joel Embiid, inside the post, and also space the floor from three and shoot 35% from three. Every team could use Brook Lopez.
Yeah,
everyone.
Just a modest list of qualities that you named there. Yeah. Just like we can just roll those out and go find those anywhere.
Those guys don't exist though, right? Yeah. So I mean, like Miles Turner is probably like the closest comparable, to a Brook Lopez, and he is nowhere near the player as Brook Lopez, in my opinion, despite his production this year. So with that in mind, I think for Oklahoma City, unless you can find that, I don't think it's a bad thing to have one guy who's, bringing beef inside as kind of maybe he's not a 30-minute per game player. Maybe he's a 15 to 20-minute per game player and matchup dependent. But I think somebody like that, like think about Memphis with Steven Adams. Mm-hmm. Adams, he plays 25, 30 minutes per game over the course of the regular season. In the postseason, he could, if he's healthy, comes back, he could very well have a series where he's getting 10 minutes per game or even some DNPs. I think for Oklahoma City, that's going to be the formula for them as they build this roster out moving forward. It's if they can find a big with skill, awesome. But if he becomes a guy who's more of like a guy who fits in, like Donovan Clingan from UConn is not coming in this year, but Clingan is the type of guy I think about where I'd be like, okay, put him next to Chet in that front court with all this other spacing and skill, guys who can, work into the paint even without space. It's not like Oklahoma City as is has amazing space, and yet SGA is able to get wherever he wants. Other guys are able to attack the basket. I just think the Thunder team has so much skill that could work in spurts, even if the big isn't spacing. Do you feel similarly?
Yeah, I think tonight's game was a testament of what you're talking about. Is that the spacing? Like New Orleans didn't get back cut. Like I don't have like the tracking numbers in front of me, but just by my eyes, I kept thinking throughout the game. I was like, there haven't been any back cuts. Like this hasn't happened. Like they did a pretty good job. And we don't want to oversell this. They beat New Orleans. It wasn't like they knocked off, but this was a postseason, like, high pressure, there were stakes type game. And New Orleans kept them in front really well, I thought, all night. Like they kept everything in front of them. They didn't get back cut. And this just speaks to the style of these ball handlers, that they still got in the lane. Mm-hmm. They still got there. And it's like, Shea has gotten a lot better at like not forcing things. He's gotten better at being like judicious about the types of threes that he takes. He did make some, but he's really good at like, even if, a defender like Herb like walls up against him. I've seen Herb give him trouble in spurts in the past, but tonight he seemed really frustrated because it's a hard matchup to officiate too, because Shea, he doesn't extend that arm, but he'll wall that arm up like Stockton style. And you just can't. He'll move you without extending, and it's just hard to defend, man. And then you see Herb come up on him, and then Shea slithers around him and spins and shoots like a lefty thing. It's wild. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, they probably just need another body. Honestly, I don't know who that's going to be. I'm kind of just like scrolling through the bodies that are out there. In terms of like, I don't know. Do they need like a let's see. Steven Adams was an interesting comparison. I mean, there's somebody maybe that has fallen out of favor that they could get good value on. But yeah, I don't know, like a maybe Capella is a guy that Atlanta decides that they don't need at some point, but he's going to be maybe more expensive than they want. Maybe they get him on a short-term deal. Maybe a veteran. I don't know, somebody like that. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that makes some sense. Like a Zubats type, somebody like that. A Pirtle type. Somebody along in that spirit. Not that those guys are necessarily available, but that player construct that could make some sense for Oklahoma City. And you mentioned SGA with his subtle improvements that he made. A lot of people voted him most improved player of the year. Understandably so, with the year that he had and how he goes from awesome player to borderline MVP candidate, first team All NBA guy. With him, it's just like he took 5 threes tonight. That's abnormal for him. This is only the 7th time, Kyle, that SGA took 5+ 3-pointers on the season. And this is an outlier game for him. It's abnormal for him to go 2 for 5. He's usually taken 2 3-pointers, 1 3-pointer, 3 3-pointers. Of the guys that averaged over 30 points per game this season, SGA had fewer threes per game than Giannis and Embiid. He's a true outlier amongst league scorers, high volume guys. He's an outlier, never mind amongst guards, in the league that we have today. It's just this team, and him being the face of it right now, is just everything feels so inverted. And I can't wait to see the way they're going to look with Chet this coming season and how they're going to grow together. And they have the pick, they have all their future picks and their flexibility. They could, if they wanted to, go pedal to the metal, accelerate things if a trade becomes available that they want to pursue. That's what's exciting with them. And with New Orleans, granted their season is over right now. You're disappointed if you're a Pelicans fan and Zion's out and he's not playing. They're still in a similar spot with all the picks and all the versatility that they have. Trey Murphy, 21 points tonight. Nice to see him crack 10 3-pointers. He should do that every single game, in my opinion. That was a mistake over the course of the season, I felt like, by Willie Green, underutilizing Trey Murphy as a shooter. But for the Pelicans, what are your takeaways on their season as a whole, Kyle?
The Zion thing is looming. Jesse and I were joking before we came on about there should have been, ESPN should have had a graphic in the corner of a meter that measured how much Zion is feeling like Zion throughout the game. I thought that would have been a nice little gimmick for them to do, but it makes you wonder. It is starting to get a Fultzy, Ben Simmons-y kind of a thing where it's the basketball part of it, the health part of it. You start to wonder. He is the thing that the team that we saw tonight seems like it's a galaxy that's lacking a major gravitational pull at the center of it. Ingram is working way too hard to get some of those shots. They need another shot creator out there that's dependable, that can make his life a little bit easier. Now, granted, I mean, the third quarter, when OKC made that run, you have to kind of wonder if Willie Green should have gone to Jonas Valanciunas a little bit earlier, because he was bullying them, and then when they did go to him, he kind of created easy shots for them. I don't know. Do you think that they should have gone to him earlier, or do you think that was that the right move? What do you think?
I mean, I think the more you go to Brandon Ingram, the better.
And he proved that. I mean, it's just he was busting his ass. I mean, he didn't get anything easy.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. The final shot, I believe he missed from the post. That was a really hard-fought shot to get that off. The play before that really ticked me off, though, with CJ McCollum taking that floater. Just unwarranted. 5 for 15 on the day. After game 82, when you throw up all over yourself down the stretch of the game, 9 of 24, careless turnovers, missed free throws. Give the ball to Brandon Ingram and get out of the way. That really bugged me to see that from CJ McCollum. He's been one of the big disappointments to me this entire season for New Orleans. I mean, he's fine. He's okay, but 31 years old. I just feel like this Pelicans team right now, with Zion's health, CJ not being quite, what he was in Portland, they're in an interesting spot here, man. I'm still incredibly high on their future if, as Chris Vernon says, it's the dumbest thing to say, if Zion's healthy.
It is a rough caveat to put on any situation.
It is. But he's this is not saying much. Low bar coming up right here, Kyle. He's played more games than Joel Embiid did over Embiid's first 4 years of his career.
People love to say that. People love to say that. I hope
it's a low bar.
We're really we're grasping for any kind of little sliver of hope.
I mean,
this happened one
he's
time.
Awesome though, man. He's incredible. Anytime he plays, he's unbelievable.
Yes, he is. I don't know. It's hard not to come away from this. Just like, I mean, OKC, I feel like these teams, like, they feel like they're going on the escalator in different directions right now. Like, it's a tough thing, because you do wonder if CJ fits your timeline. You do wonder, and it's amazing that from where we started the year, where it was like this team looked like a potential juggernaut. We were talking about like this. There was a lot of talk. There was wild talk out there, Kev. There was talk.
I was leading it. I was the one saying they can win the finals if Zion's healthy and if they make a trade at the deadline. Zion wasn't healthy. They didn't make a trade at the deadline. They lose in the play-in.
Yeah. Well, who did you think that they needed to add at the deadline?
I mean, nobody, because Zion was out.
Yeah.
So nobody. It wasn't even something I was thinking about, because it just wasn't even a possibility. It didn't make sense to do.
It seems like they're going to have to parlay. They have a lot of pieces. They have a lot of guys that are interesting, but they have things that haven't quite worked out the way they thought. Kyra Lewis is still young. Dyson hasn't played a lot down the stretch here. I think we maybe expected him to be a little bit more of a factor, but Jackson Hayes, I think I feel like they would probably part with him if given the chance. You just had a lot of things that started. Trey Murphy, I think, has gone to the moon. I think you hold on to him no matter what.
Love him.
Yeah, and I think that he could make another leap. I don't know about like a McHale leap, but he feels like he's in that mold. If we could potentially see him start to transition on ball, but a lot of unanswered questions. It's a frustrating slide that they've gone on.
In the early game, we saw the Bulls beat the Raptors 109-105. Like I said earlier, Zach LaVine, awesome second half. Also saw Patrick Williams with some really great defensive pressure on the perimeter to help bring back the Bulls in that second half. What stood out to you in Bulls-Raptors?
This is one, I mean, I don't know how your bracket, I don't know if you picked a bracket in the same way, like a March Madness type thing, but I've judged a lot of these wrong. I really thought that this was going to be a tough matchup for Chicago, but again, like you saw,
just for what it's worth, so Kyle, I picked the Heat to get the 7 seed, the Bulls to get the 8 seed, and I picked the Lakers to get the 7 seed and the Thunder to get the 8 seed. Those were my picks prior to the play-in. So I've missed on the Hawks and Heat because the Hawks won. So other than that, 3 for 4 in the play-in.
Yeah, I came pretty strong that I thought, well, Minnesota actually ended up, they regressed there at the end and became Minnesota for me. That worked out for me, but I had the Hawks thing totally wrong.
Same.
But I mean, this was one that I thought would be tough because I just thought that Toronto's like cumulative kind of perimeter length defensively, I thought would be enough to deter them. But it's the shot making thing, and we saw something happen in both games where Oklahoma City kind of got momentum whenever they stopped involving helpers and just kind of like stopped bringing a ball screen, just let Shea get into isolation and space. And we saw that a little bit with the Bulls and the Raptors too. And I mean, sometimes it's just about momentum. In a one-game scenario, we see that in the college tournament all the time. If you got a shot creator who just gets hot, one-game scenario, you can go home. And like we saw that, like LaVine, he got rolling, man. And I thought that like throughout the night, he settled for a couple tough twos early on. I thought that he was getting some trouble. Settling a little bit, but he slowly kind of balanced his shot distribution, I thought, throughout the game, like, and started like attacking the rim. I don't think that he settled as much throughout, and that was nice to see. And I don't know, you mentioned Patrick Williams. Watching him, man, I get they're not used offensively the same way, but defensively, I get Jarris Walker vibes. Like he kind of reminds me of him, like kind of that high, big shoulders, just his build. What do you think about that one?
I mean, I'm intrigued. Like Walker is a bit beefier than him, but player role, style. Is that what you're kind of alluding to there? Like they have a similar body type that could allow Walker to do the things we saw Williams do tonight defensively.
Yes,
with a more limited offensive role too. Like, is that part of it as well?
Yeah, I think offensively, I was kind of going back and looking at what they were like as like 18, 19-year-olds in college. I just think, we saw little glimmers of Patrick Williams on ball. I think that his situation in college was a little different than Jarris because Jarris had he had a couple primary handlers that he was playing with. So his role was different. We talked about that with him versus Gigi, but they do have a similar explosiveness in like tight space that reminds me of like they can body bigger. Like I thought throughout this game, I mean, he was giving some trouble to Pascal at different points. I thought, they had
dude, he was like running the clock down with the pressure.
Yeah,
getting Toronto into all late offense.
Yeah, there was an interesting parallel between like the way that OKC was trying to bother Brandon Ingram, and then the way that the Bulls were trying to bother Pascal. And I just thought, whenever they made that switch, he had a great game. He had a couple like poster dunks too. I thought he looked really poised out there. Patrick Williams every time he made a big play, I was just like, that's Charks' guy. He would be just grinning ear to ear right now in this game.
I mean, OG Anunoby on the other side, another one of Charks' guys. Like, OG obviously didn't have the best game, but had a great season. But yeah, that was like Charks' player type. Those beefy 6'8" Jonathan Isaac with Orlando Grant. He's not beefy, but long, versatile. Those guys that at one point before the rise of the big man, it seemed like we might be moving towards those guys, doing their own best Draymond Green impression.
Yeah. I mean, just dudes that can like stop and contain ball handlers, but then arms long enough to contest shots, basically, I think is kind of what we're alluding to there. Yeah. But
now you go. My bad.
I was just going to say, no, I mean, that's the parallel. And I just see him like, he just seems like he's just like a truck that can, he has that power and then that explosiveness that we saw throughout. Like he's almost like deceptively explosive, like for his build. Sometimes you're just like, how does that get off the ground like that? It's pretty wild.
Who are the guys in this year's draft class? You mentioned Jarris Walker, that can kind of potentially do the Patrick Williams or OG Anunoby style thing, like, Taylor Hendricks out of UCF, Cam Whitmore.
That's the guy I was going to say.
Villanova. Cam Whitmore, is he the main one that comes to mind for you? And are there any others as well besides those two in the lottery?
I mean, Whitmore is the guy. I had somebody compare him, not on a personal level, but just as a basketball player. They said he reminded him of Miles Bridges, and I was like, I kind of see that. I see some of that.
That's a pretty good comp. Might steal that for the draft guide and replace the one that I have. A semi truck with a Ferrari's accelerator.
Yeah, I love the cars. Yeah, even though I know jack shit about cars, I always like pulling out the car metaphor. Comps. Yeah, I mean, he has. I think I mentioned earlier in the year that he his body reminds me a little bit of OG and the gracefulness,
Miles Bridges one,
the power. I like that one too. I like in terms of other guys that fit that mold. I mean, Leonard Miller, I could see Sissoko. He's not quite as big, but Leonard Miller has the body type. Long arms, huge hands. He's still kind of coming into himself in terms of like his coordination and stuff. What do you think about that one?
I think the Leonard Miller one's good. 6'10", versatile, potentially. I mean, he's a big if. I wish I could see it, in reality instead of projecting it, but that's what you get to do. Sometimes you just roll the dice and hope it works out. Like if you're drafted in the 20s, Leonard Miller is the type of guy that does check those boxes that you're talking about from a raw standpoint, and he's got some of the fluidity as a ball handler too. With the flashes of playmaking that you see, some of the pull-up stuff. Part of me, with a guy like Leonard Miller, like I want to rank him higher. I want to put him higher. I have him 34 on my board right now. Is that too low? Like, what do you think of the Leonard Miller positioning on my rankings?
I mean, me throwing his name into this conversation is just a very optimistic thing to do for me personally, because I've had a hard time with him from moment one. I mean, somebody tipped me off to him kind of early on, and I went and I watched, and I was just like, what the hell is this? I was like, what? What are we doing? And it seems like clearly the people who know basketball see him, and they are putting him in positions to play with other good players and giving him opportunities to grow. I've had a harder time latching on to it just because I see the chaos. Sometimes people look at like these chaotic players and they'll be like, there's something in here that is going to round into reason, you know, that there's into order. There's this chaos and order thing. I just kind of like watch him and I'm like, I'm having a hard time seeing the order, mainly just because he's such an erratic decision maker. He's such a weird shooter that I think the speed of the NBA is going to bother him. But if you start talking about like the defensive side, if he can like keep himself on the floor, then you could see some of those things maybe getting the space they need and the time they need to round out potentially. But I'm not confident about it. I don't think 34 is wild at all. Like he feels like a second rounder to me personally on my board. But other people have him higher. I don't know. He's polarizing, you know?
Well, I mean, the one thing I'll say in his favor is he's 19 years old right now, and Pascal Siakam at that time was still in college and nowhere close to looking like a guy that would be an all-star and average 24, 8, and 6 and be the player that he is right now for the Raptors. I mean, even his final year of college at New Mexico State, Pascal Siakam looked nothing like the guy that he has become in the NBA. So for somebody like Leonard Miller, granted, Siakam, I think slightly like an inch or two shorter, slightly different style. Nobody could have seen Siakam become this. He was more of the hustle, energy, versatile guy at New Mexico State. Just to pivot to Toronto here, I guess, Kyle, I can't wait to see what this team does this offseason, because right now they have Van Vliet, who could have been traded at the deadline, wasn't. Gary Trent Jr., who also could have been traded, wasn't.
Both of those guys. What is going on with him? What is going on with him? He's just gone to the crapper. Like he can't do anything.
Fallen off completely. Yeah. And him and Van Vliet have player options for next year. Van Vliet, I would expect to decline. He's at $22.8 million. Gary Trent, 18.8, unless, his agents clutch know there's something bigger and better for him out there. Maybe they want to sign long-term instead at a lower annual value number. He could opt in at a number that's not great for Toronto. But then you have OG Anunoby, who's 1 year away from becoming a free agent. Siakam, 1 year away from becoming a free agent. This is a team right now where Toronto, they had a good run. They win a title with Kawhi Leonard. They have some good years and a lot of good youth, with Scotty Barnes being the face of all that. But this is a franchise right now out of the play-in. They're going to be undergoing some change in the coming years. And even with their head coach, Nick Nurse, he could be on the way out as well. He's openly talked about that. It feels like this could be the end of an era here for the Raptors, watching them tonight.
Yeah, it seems like they're definitely at some sort of a pivot point here. I was thinking when you were describing sort of them as a young teams go through these cycles where they like when they get to they have the chance to like level up to this next thing, to move on to this next step and compete in the playoffs. They haven't quite done that in the post Kawhi. And, trying to get Kawhi was a big bet. And you take the pieces that are left and you try to shape them into something. And I think they probably overachieved a little bit. But, you kind of wonder, like, when you do that fail to level up thing, it makes you wonder about, we were talking about, like, what OKC is going to do next. What's that next move going to be? It kind of makes you wonder, like, that's what can happen. I wonder if we're going to be, how we're going to be talking about OKC a few years from now, because we get all excited about what these teams can do. But, when it comes around time, nut cutting time to make the decision, or when it comes time to actually perform and do the results, you have to do it, and it can shift to a more negative conversation. You were talking like something interesting that has come up to me lately, and I think Pascal falls into this discussion. Leonard Miller is part of this too. I think these guys that are more, they're starting from nothing, whereas like some guys will come into like higher like levels of basketball and they have like habits that need to be torn down and like reshaped. You talk about some of the, like the craziest developmental stories Embiid, Siakam, these guys, those were guys that like they were new to basketball. I think that's kind of a common denominator, you know. And I wonder if you wanted to like make an argument for Leonard Miller, I wonder if that would be one. I'm not trying to circle all the way back to that, but yeah, that's something that's on my mind a lot whenever, like Chris Boucher, another guy that the Raptors picked up. That's an interesting one. Learned basketball very quickly at a later age. I always kind of keep my eyes peeled for those guys.
With Leonard Miller, do we know what age he started playing?
Yeah,
we're
going
going
to
to
sound
multiple sports, you know, growing up, one of those kids, you know, like volleyball and all that.
Yeah, I think that's a pattern too. I think guys that have a lot of experience, so I think that they like cognitively like pick the sport up quickly. I mean, we were joking about like Embiid said he just got on YouTube and figured out how to shoot. But if you that type of mastery is pretty exceptionally rare to like pick it up that late and then become as like technically sound and like. But I think he had other things in his life that helped him have great touch as a shooter too, like him, you know, hitting the volleyball. Have you ever seen footage of him like just hitting the volleyball to himself? His hands are so soft.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if it's one of those types of things.
Yeah, or even like playing soccer. I mean, I remember Brett Brown called Joel Embiid Shaq with soccer feet. Those like I just quote that sticks in my head from Brett Brown from years ago when Embiid was like in his second or third year, and I mean, kind of true.
Yeah,
as dominant as Embiid is on the interior, you know, a foul drawing magnet, but also he has the perimeter skill and he's able to like snake pick and rolls as a handler, and he's able to pull up for mid range and shoot the heck out of the ball and go coast to coast. Embiid is he's an outlier for sure, man. Do you think not to get into MVP talk, who would you have selected for MVP this year, Kyle? I'm just curious.
Oh,
I
come
picked
on.
Giannis.
Not to get into MVP
Pina
talk.
picked Jokic, of course, you know, his baby. Russillo and Bill Simmons picked Embiid. Who would you have selected for MVP?
This is tough.
Because, by the way, the 3 MVP candidates, all amazing developmental stories as well.
Yeah,
all 3 of them.
They are. This is a kind of a segue to like something that I think if we want to like hit on Wemby today, you know, you and I were talking last week about, and I'm gonna tie this to the MVP thing, but like, I think the highest and hardest thing to do in basketball, our buddy Ben Taylor, we were having a conversation one time, like trying to measure like two-way players. And in the thing we made up was like 0-1, D1. Like a player is like the offensive first option and the anchor defensively. Or you might be the offensive first option and the second best defensive player on your team. So that'd be an 0-1, D2. So that was kind of just like a naming system. Whereas like a Jokic, he would be an 0-1, D5. Like he's a guy you got to protect. I feel like the only like the closest thing to like an 0-1 D1 that we have in the sport right now truly is Giannis. Like I feel like you could split hairs over like Drew's obviously amazing. They do different things. Brook's incredible. All these, and you can argue against Brook that he fits into this system, but you drop Giannis into any situation, he's going to be an insanely valuable defensive player. I feel like for me, he is the best player in the sport right now for that reason, just because of how historically rare that is.
Did Rob flip on the rankings? How's Jokic still 1 if you and Rob have Giannis 1?
That's the thing. I've had Jokic 1. I'm pretty sure I'll just like tip my hand the next time around. I'm going to have Giannis 1 because I've had Jokic 1 for a while, and I don't know. I just what are you laughing about?
I'm just makes me want to cry tears of joy that the right thing is going to happen on that list finally.
Oh, I thought you were making fun of me. I was like,
no, it just makes me happy.
No. I honestly, I was
so
leaning.
Great.
I'm leaning towards Giannis. But I do think that I do understand what people are talking about when they say that, you know, when you look back at this era, like for us to like get it right, that like it makes sense to have Giannis and Jokic and Embiid get 1, you know, because Embiid's incredible. And you can make an argument. I like what Ryan said about it, that like you give a PowerPoint presentation about every single one of these players, and at the end of it, I'd be like, Jesus Christ, yeah, that guy's the best player in the world.
It's true. I know.
What a time to be alive that we have all these great players.
We really are lucky. It's true. We are.
Yeah.
We're lucky.
And you think about just like, so let's do a segue here. So like, we're going to talk about like,
who's your MVP pick?
I just said, I'm leaning towards Giannis. I would like
Giannis?
edge towards,
okay, well, you said his best player in the world.
Well, it's a shame that those are two different things, but I would just lightly lean towards Giannis, and I know I'm going to hear
that's what I did with my vote, just a slight lean towards Giannis over Embiid. Very slight. Okay. Embiid's awesome. Jokic is awesome. Jokic less so on defense this year, but that's beside the point. To Wemby, what were you saying? Sorry.
I was just going to say we were talking about Wemby. Wemby does have, and historically, I did a little legwork here. Okay, like about how unusually rare this is. I don't think I got like every single one of them. Like throughout history, I mean, Jordan, you could say at different times was like an 0-1 D1, but he had Pippen that was playing with him. Pippen took tough assignments so they could save him. Hakeem was, Tim Duncan was for a time, Kevin Garnett. I think Jason Tatum actually right now is close to an 0-1 D1. What do you think about that? Is that true, or do you think Marcus is D1?
Not this year. Marcus is not.
Yeah,
you could argue Robert Williams could be their true D1. But Tatum, with the defensive versatility, the on ball with what he can do when he's really locked in there, you could make the argument he's the D1. You could.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess it tends
That's
towards
the tough
like
thing, by the way, about defense. Like, it's tough. Sometimes no, like you said with Milwaukee, I'd say Giannis is the D1. You know, he's just he plays a more important role than what Brook does, and what Brook does is so interconnected with what Drew Holiday does, fighting over screens to make things easier for the drop defender, and the drop defender make things easier for the perimeter defender to do what he does on ball. But Giannis is the guy who can do absolutely everything, and cleans every mistake up at the basket, and is an on-ball genius when he needs to be, and switch master. Like, Giannis is more important. Tatum can do a lot of those things too. But anyway, yes.
Yeah. So I guess that's kind of where we're talking about, like, historically why Wemby is so special. I think that's one of the arguments. Like young Kareem's another one. You could go on and on. And hit me up if there's more 0-1 D1s that you can think of in history. Hit me up on Twitter or whatever. But Wemby this week had
at J Kyle, man.
We can just do it quick. I mean, he had a good bounce back game in this one. 11 for 21 for 29 points, 4 assists. He had 6 turnovers. He had a couple times where he was like, just, I don't know if it's laziness or there are times where he just has his guard down and he's like not being careful with the ball, and he'll have somebody come from the weak side and swipe him or things like that. 16 rebounds, 1 block in this game. I don't know. Did you come away with any? The one thing I will say about this game that I repeatedly see from him is he's continuously finishing through contact, like physically being assaulted, basically, and finishing through contact with a lot of touch, which gives me a lot of promise for what he's going to look like when he physically matures. That is something that I think you talk about, the face-up stuff that he does without being touched, I think is promising. But that part of his game, I think, is the answer to the things I've said in the past about, like, how is this guy going to be physical and get his easy points? I think that's an argument in that direction.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. I mean, I think with Wemby, he may look lean, he may look skinny, but he does not lack toughness, and like that, I think he has strength as well to finish through that contact. Yeah, I think he does need to, if we were talking about him, totally maximizing potential, adding a left hand, over the course of time is something that he should do. But like, again, we're nitpicking. Anytime it's something negative about Wemby, it's really just a little baby nitpick, because he is one of those 0-1 D1 types where he can anchor your defense. I think that goes without saying. And offensively, as we've talked about over the course of the season, there's some things he needs to work on for sure. I mean, he's just a teenager right now. But the upside is there for him to lead an offense in more ways than one because of the versatility. Like, he can be your play finisher, a screener, pick and popping, creating space for others on your team. And that in and of itself is important. It's an act of creation, even when the ball's not in your hands, rolling to the basket and drawing defenders in to create opportunities for kickouts. That is creation without touching the ball. But also because of his handling ability, as we see with the highlights that go crazy online all year long, he's a guy that can have the ball in his hands and rip down defensive rebounds or block the shot, or reach in and poke a ball, get a steal and go coast to coast. Or I don't know, like who's to say someday he's not running some high pick and rolls? Like big, like remember DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis in New Orleans, the way they'd run those 4-5 pick and rolls? Who's to say he won't be on a team that has the pieces to do that? I don't know what he's going to look like in 5-6 years. Wemby 100% has the potential to do anything on the basketball court once he does reach his prime. Like the key ultimately for him is going to be, is he going to be a 30% 3-point shooter for the rest of his career? I don't think so. I'm betting against that. He's like 36, 37% off the catch, 80+% from the free throw line, awesome touch near the rim, 40+% from mid-range on really tough contested pull-ups. I think the shot's going to extend to 3 eventually, and this dude's going to be an absolute, complete, unstoppable freak of nature.
Yeah. What do you think about Portland? What do you think about, quickly here, I mean, what do you think about Portland saying that they're going to trade it if they don't get the number 1 pick? Do you think that's smart? I don't know. I have a thought on that.
I'm not loyal. I'd trade Dame.
Me too.
I'd trade old man Dame before I trade the number 2 pick.
I'm not loyal. You heard it here first. Kevin O'Connor. He would trade his own mother if he could.
I don't know if I've probably said this on pods before, but I grew up rooting for. I'm a Boston sports fan growing up, and I grew up like with my teams. Danny Ainge trades Antoine Walker. It's the first trade I can ever remember the Celtics making that was relevant in my life. Antoine Walker was a fan favorite. My friends all loved Antoine Walker, and boom, he's gone. I remember the Patriots releasing Lawyer Malloy days before the season began. Pro Bowl safety. Poof, he's gone. Red Sox trade Nomar Garcia-Parra, my favorite player. And then they win the World Series. So like, that's how I grew up, with sports, where I'm like, okay, you need to do what's best for the team and for the future of your franchise, even if it makes fans hurt. That's the way I grew up, and it led to success for decades. So I think with a team like Portland, I think they made the right decision to try to go for it this year. Damian Lillard has proven that he, after having a down year, is still an all-NBA talent. He had the best season of his freaking career, man. But the team still stunk. They still stunk. So I think for Portland right now, you get a nice young guard in Anthony Simons, and Shaedon Sharpe looks so good, man. Like down the stretch of the season, granted these are meaningless games, like he looks advanced beyond his years, like a steal with the 7th pick. If that pick stays at 7, or it's not going to have enough value in a trade to get something worthwhile to suddenly go from a team that missed the play-in to a team that's contending for the finals, unless their goals are just to be a 4 or 5 seed every year and maybe get lucky like Toronto did. If that's what they want to do, like, cool. Like, I get it. I do understand that approach, but I don't. I think you got to always be playing for championships, man. To me, like you're selling your fans short if you're not playing for titles. So if like Damian Lillard, considering the year he had, this might be his peak value.
Yeah,
you may never like this. Could be, we saw what Kevin Durant got with Mikal Bridges. With all these picks, we see what all these trades have been in recent years with massive returns. You could get a trade that sets your team up for another 2 decades of success, right? And maybe it ends up a mistake, and maybe you wish you went the other way. Maybe it sucks that Dame goes. But by the way, Dame has also had the quotes about he'll assess this offseason, right? So if he doesn't want to be playing with young players, does that mean he doesn't want to be playing with Shaedon Sharpe anymore? Because if you don't want to be playing with a rookie, you wouldn't want to be playing with Sharpe. Does it mean you don't want to be sharing the floor with Simons, who's still, he's better but raw?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Kyle. To me, like I feel pretty passionately about the Blazers, regardless of Dame's wishes, need to be thinking very hard about exploring a future without him.
Yeah, your mobility to go where you want to go with him in the deck is just limited. Like I don't understand that thinking. And the specific thing that I was thinking about was like, let's say somehow they get number 2. Like it could, it's not impossible. Let's say they get number 2 and Scoot is there. I was just I was doing a little daydreaming, Kev. I was just thinking about a Scoot Shaden backcourt to kind of get you going for the next few years. I think he would be amazing to pair with him. I think those two together would be incredible. I think his personality would be awesome. I think Portland would. I know that I've expressed some skepticism here and there, feelings that I have about Scoot that I'm working through. We're working through them right now, but literally, I was working through them today watching him. But I just think that they would fall in love with him. So that was just something that I was thinking about. And then maybe potentially, I don't know, maybe you could also flip Anthony Simons for something that fits better with those two guys. I just think, don't be so close-minded, Portland. I don't think it's Wemby or bust. I think it might be Wemby or Scoot or bust, but there's some options there for them that they don't have to play it that way. I understand why they're thinking that way, but maybe they're saying that because they just think it is so. They should get themselves in the mindset that to be prepared for the unlikelihood that is there that they won't get the number 2 pick, which is probably what's going to happen. But it could happen. And if it does, I don't think that they should be so committed to this short-term thing that's not going to go anywhere.
On the flip side, let me play devil's advocate here, despite everything I just said. If they do get the 2nd or 3rd pick, is there a player that could become available for that said pick that would make sense to say, you know what, this guy can elevate our team to a point that you feel like we're competitive enough to be one of the final 4 teams in late May? Is there a potential trade out there that makes you feel that way? By flipping one of those picks and really going all in with Damian Lillard and saying, you know what, you've been loyal to us. We have this opportunity on the table. We're going for it, Dame. Is there anybody who comes to mind that you look ahead to the offseason? Because there's not for me.
I was just going to say, I was like, are you saying that with an answer in mind? I was like, who's even going to be available that would move the needle to that point? And I think that's you meant to play devil's advocate, but I think you did the opposite, Kev. I think you just dug it even further.
Who? Paul George? If the Clippers lose in the first round, Paul George, I'm sorry. All due respect to Paul George, great player, but he's not putting you over the top. Jaylen Brown, if he's you know what, I actually do want out of Boston, which is unlikely. I don't think Jaylen Brown, I don't even think you're going to have the best offer for Jaylen Brown, right? I don't know if that's going to end up being the case. Siakam?
Those were, you literally are naming the guys I was thinking of.
I don't know.
Simons in Boston is interesting. But I mean,
Simons to Boston would be very interesting, actually, with all that versatility and all the length around him.
Yeah, let him go wild.
Nice.
Let him level up. You could protect him on offense or on defense,
God.
And that would be really fascinating.
That'd be super cool, actually.
It's fun to think about.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. Does Siakam put you over the top? Does he even put you in a position to win a title? I don't know.
No, not in this economy. No, I think that it's a superstar race. I mean, you're just kidding yourself if you think otherwise. You can be competitive and scrappy, but the reality is there are the teams out there they're the big gorillas that are going to be hard to get by, and you're going to have to do that with superstars. They're the Phoenixes and teams like that, and I don't see a move that makes sense for that. I think you pivot and you start thinking about the future. I'd be curious to take the temperature of what Portland fans think about this, but they're just kind of wandering a little bit. That's kind of where my head is on this.
Dame says I don't know. I'm really paraphrasing here. I don't want to take him out of context, but he's talked about he doesn't want to join a super team and he's taking the harder road here. This is not the harder road. This is the easier road, sticking with Portland your whole career. The harder road is going to a team that actually has stakes and has an opportunity to win the championship and being in those high leverage games and competing in a conference finals and getting picked at on defense and attacked and figuring it out and then coming out victorious anyway. That's the hard road. And it's not going to be a super team that you end up going to anyway. It's going to be a team that feels like they're making a trade that you're our guy who puts us over the top. That's pressure. That's the hardest road. And I'd love to see Damian Lillard be in that situation because he is such a beloved talent. He is a superstar player. And if the Blazers don't have a path moving forward to actually compete for a championship, I think it's for the best for Damian Lillard. to be put in a situation where he can. And I think it's best for the Blazers to move forward with a new look franchise, a new core, and to build anew again, possibly, if they do move into the top 4, and even if they don't, and if they hit with their pick in the middle of the lottery, they have a lot of, good young talent to build with moving forward, that it could become mutually beneficial for both parties involved there.
It's scary to head towards the unknown, Kevin, and I know that can cause some people to hesitate. The hilarity of maybe potentially Paul George coming in after like one of the most iconic Blazers moments, being the fact that I guess he was waving at, was he waving at Russ or at PG? I forget. That would be hilarious to me if they brought him in. But no, I agree with you. And Dame is a guy. Dame hasn't run from pressure. Lord knows he's not a guy that runs from pressure. That he's one of the clutchest guys in the NBA league history, honestly. So, I mean, how many guys have like hit a game winner to like a series winner? He's done it twice. So it's like he's a guy who embraces it. We'll see if I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do, but I kind of lean towards you. I think I would pivot towards the rebuild. That would be what I would do.
One little piece of draft news to end our, really young guy NBA talk, play-in conversation here, Kyle. Kyle Filipowski going back to Duke for his sophomore year. This, I think, is the right decision for him. Projected mid, late first-round pick, probably somewhere in the 12, 13 to 25 range. Pretty wide range for him at this point. Next year, he could go back if he crushes for them, could potentially end up a top 10 pick. For Filipowski, it's the right choice. And I think this also speaks to the changing dynamic with the NIL, where, I'm not sure what his deal is going back to college at Duke, but it's intriguing to think about if a Filipowski could end up like a 3-year guy or a 4-year guy, how much that deal could inflate over the years. That's just something on my mind with him going back for at least one more year.
Yeah, I think that NIL money can act as an interesting sort of bridge between, let's say you're in that like 20, 14 to 20 range. If you think about the difference in the literal dollars that are there, and you think about, well, I could come back and get that amount of money if I just come back to school, and then potentially
like $2 million in the 20s, right? Like that type of amount. 20, like if you're the 25th pick, you're making $2-ish million.
Yeah. Which, and if you're breaking 6 figures, even 7 figures as an NIL player, that's pretty special money. Like, I'm not saying that that's happening very much, but I know for a fact that like several I'm pretty positive Ty Washington broke $1 million at Kentucky. So I mean, it can happen. I know Oscar has. I'm just saying that I can't speak to the other blue blood programs or what Duke is getting done with their guys, but for him, I don't know. I think it makes sense. If he doesn't have to go, don't go. Come back, get better. I just wonder, top 10 seems high for his player type. Do you think, when was the last time a guy of his player type went top 10? I don't really remember one. Am I misremembering?
So you don't see that upside for him? So maybe you think for him it's less so about the potential rise in the draft and what could come with that, with a greater rookie salary, and more so about, I like Duke. I like college, and I'm getting paid enough that I'm happy being here, and I want to spend more time here, and it's probably for the best for my own career too, and maybe for his, he feels just for his development.
I think that could be true. I'm just like thinking about like the past few years, whether or not he ascends to become like a top 10 player in his class. I just think like in terms of teams making the investment in his player type, I don't feel like we've seen that lately. Like I feel like he's going to have to become like a pretty consistent, like 35 to 40% 3-point shooter to just, he'd have to make a pretty solid leap. Like, I think he could do it. I have some faith in him as a shooter. I just can't remember the last time the last player of his ilk was like a top 10 pick. And I might have amnesia right now, but can you think of one off the top of your head? I can't.
No, I always have amnesia.
It's because of the gummies, right, Kev?
No, that's not true. I have not taken any gum. My memory's been like this my entire life before I do what those gummies could do. And I have not taken a gummy since early August either.
Oh, that's right. You did tell me you were going on a gummy. I'm sorry for the false gummy accusations.
Okay,
I retract.
Accusing me.
You earned that accusation.
Verno calls me cannabis before every show. It's not true right now. It will be at some point, but not today.
Are you just waiting? You're waiting for the right time where your body's guard is going to be completely down, and you're just going to level yourself with some delicious cannabis, Kevin? Is that the plan?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like for me, like part of it is like I'm just not allowing myself to do it right now. Like when I hit a weight goal, then I will allow myself to do it on a limited basis. It'll become a reward system, reward less so than like just I want to do it tonight. I'll do it today. But it's just a long break right now, and then it will become a reward when I hit 200 pounds. I'm at 207.2 this morning. I've lost, I think, 20 pounds in 110-ish days or something like that. I weighed myself for the first time in a couple days. But yeah, like 20-ish pounds in something like 110 days, something around along those lines. Pretty good. I'm happy with how it's going.
Well, I can tell just by looking at you. I can tell that
you can see it in my cheeks.
Yeah, definitely.
Less puffy.
Definitely. I'm pulling for you. I don't I'm kind of in one of those modes where I've been doing some traveling and a lot of eating out. When I travel, I just don't eat well. We went to Chicago. I had a couple of huge meals, sitting back like
what did you
I don't
eat
know.
in Chicago? What was the most memorable meal? You have deep dish there. Like what was the deep dish calories will get you?
Not a deep dish guy. Not a deep
really?
dish guy. Yeah, I just don't really. I don't know. I don't get into it. We ate at this place.
Lou Malnati's, their deep dish pizza.
I've had it.
You've had it. You're just not a deep dish guy.
I just don't. Kyle. I don't go seeking it out.
Okay,
I don't. We ate at a place called Proxy in downtown Chicago, which was like world small plates, and it was amazing. Proxy with an I at the end. Okay. Ramen San. There's a lot of good places to eat in Chicago. Got some good recommendations, but
Proxy looks good.
Oh yeah. I spent way too much money. Had too many cocktails.
That's the problem. Cocktails also, like those are going to add on unnecessarily calories just for a little buzz.
Oh yeah, for sure. We definitely could cut back for the belly on that front. Anyway, yeah. Saw Unknown Mortal Orchestra. It was a good weekend. It was a good time.
So that's where you saw them. They were great live?
They're very good live. I wish that he would maybe play. He's one of those guys that plays like in darkness. So like every once in a while, he just had a shadow over him and the whole band the whole time. And
that's because you're supposed to be taking gummies, Kyle. Come on.
I mean, I should have for that show. And you're standing there for 2 hours and you're sweating your balls off. And it's like that you couldn't move because I went to the bathroom one time and came back and couldn't find Megan. I was just like, all right, I can't move for the rest of the time we're here. And then, And then, every once in a while, he barely says anything. And then he'll come forward and you'll see the light on his face. Be like, oh, we're in the same room as this guy. I don't know. It was a good show. You
sound awesome underwhelmed, Kyle. You sound very underwhelmed.
Musically, I wasn't. I was just kind of like...
Visually, you were, though.
It just didn't feel very personal. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
I just...
yeah. Well, so, I mean, I think there's two different types of shows. There's the big theatrical show, where it doesn't feel very personal, but it's an event. And it's more than just a concert. And then there's the shows where it is personal. Both of those are great in their own way. Yeah. What you're talking about, sometimes I'd rather not be there. So it feels like those types of shows.
And also, maybe this is like getting into your mid upper 30s, but like I like having the option of having my chair. Like you're standing there for a while. I'm a guy who's like torn my ACL, and I've had a lot of knee injuries. If I stand flat-footed for a long time, I start shifting my weight, stretching my legs and stuff. I'm just like I like having the chair there. I don't mind standing the whole time, but that was kind of starting to wear on me a little bit. I was just like, you're just burning up. And I was like, I don't know. I think your tolerance for that maybe goes down as you get some more laps on you. But no, I like the intimate shows.
And the more shows you go to, by the way, it's like, it's a concert, that type of vibe, right? Unless it's a band that you really, really, really love, where it's every song you enjoy. And maybe they are that for you, Unknown Mortal Orchestra. They're not for me. I like them. Very much enjoyed their new album. Some great songs on 5 or V. I'm not sure what the Unknown Mortal Orchestra fans are calling it. But it's very good. I've
been calling it V. Yeah. They're good. Love that band.
You ever play around with the Spotify DJ?
No, I don't. What is this?
Yeah, they have this like DJ X. It's like this algorithm that plays you music based off your tastes. And it's kind of like, Discovery Weekly, that playlist they put together or some of that. But like on this one, sometimes they'll say, like, I'll turn it on. Hey, Kevin, today I'm going to put on some songs that you were listening to a lot 3 months ago, but they faded out of your rotation.
Right.
And it's like, whoa. Yes, you all are playing songs that were in my rotation from 3 months ago that faded away, but it's nice to hear them again.
I have used these in the past here and there, but my thing is, Kev, my take on this in this algorithm AI driven kind of world, entertainment, tied into our
everything's going to
experience.
break everything.
Well, I just think that's one of the things that I enjoy the most about music and movies is like the discovery aspect of it. So like whenever, if I'm listening on Spotify and an album ends and they try to jump to a track that they think I would like, I actually stop it almost every time.
Really?
Just because to me there is something sacred about me being an active participant in the art that I consume. Like I go out there, I don't know, even Netflix, they're like, Kyle, we know what you like. I'm just like, fuck you. No, you don't. There's something defiant
in me. But
they
do know.
There's something I won't deny that.
Know.
I won't deny
Kyle,
that. But
they know.
To me, the experience of I wasn't even a record store kid. I didn't go thumb through vinyls. I didn't do any of that stuff. I didn't grow up doing any of that. But I mean, I like going and looking, but I like going on All Music and Jesse says they're always listening. It's true. They are. I know. But I like going on allmusic.com and being like, I like this producer. Let me see what else he's done. Let me try this. That's fun. I get a lot of satisfaction from that. And I don't really, to me, it's a slippery slope. If I just submit myself to the algorithm at all times, I'm like, well, yeah, I don't want to be on my back floating down some digital river where I'm just eventually what's next? I'm going to end up like the fat dude in the floating chair in Wall-E. I want to be, I'm involved in my life, Kev. I don't want the computers telling me everything to do, Kyle, that's my defiance.
Let me tell you something, Kyle. You can always click skip. If the AI feeds you a song, you can hit next.
That's fine. I just don't want them to feed it to me. The discovery excites me. I'll say this too, Kevin. I get a thrill. My wife and I have this in common. When we go to any city we go to, we go hit vintage places that are there. We'll go to thrift places. We'll go to malls because we like thumbing through. That's a cute couple thing to do. I like it. We like thumbing through shit and trying to find things that are lost or like unearthing things that are out there. It's just something we enjoy. And
They're explorers.
We do. I don't want somebody exploring for me. That's just kind of my principle. I don't know if anybody agrees with me on that, but that's how I feel about it. I know like that we work for Spotify. I guess that's something that maybe I shouldn't.
But you do use Spotify. I'm sure you put together playlists.
I just do it a different way.
Many of the other great features. There's something for everybody, including the people who want to passively turn on DJX.
No, I'm not saying you don't have to do it. That you have to do it the way I do. But there's I do my own personal kind of gong show with this. Spotify has a bunch of really cool playlists. They'll have under 1,000 playlists or fresh finds playlists, and I'll go through there and I'll just literally just go through one by one. I'll play 10 seconds of it, that sucks next. But I've found some bands I'd be like, that band's gonna be huge. I listened to that band Wet Leg that has. Have you heard of them? They've got some hits.
No,
they had a song called on the Chaise Lounge, or however you pronounce it. My wife always makes fun of me for saying it wrong, but it had 1,000 plays. I listened to it. I was like, this band's gonna be huge, and I enjoy that stuff. You could tell, you can. That's more fun to me. So, and we really got on one on this, but
I was on, she's major now, right before the blow up. If I could have bought stock in Dua Lipa, I'd be able to retire today. It's right before the big blow up. I was like,
were you on her SoundCloud? 500 plays?
No. That I was later than that, right? I wasn't quite on SoundCloud, right? I wasn't at that level, but it was I think late 2017, the year that her first album was released. I think the blow up happened in 2018, something along those lines. I might have the years wrong. But it was months after her album came out, I was like, damn, this song, like this album is really good. And it's not just the one semi-popular song from this album. Like my favorite song still off that album is Lost in Your Light, which has Miguel in it. I love just like the bass line at the beginning of that song. And Genesis, like I don't even know if these aren't like the songs everybody knows from Dua Lipa, New Rules, all that stuff, Hotter Than Hell. But I was like, she's hot. She's super talented.
Yeah.
And like she's got great social media presence. If I could buy stock in her, I would. And I wish I could have.
I felt that way about Arlo Parks the first time I heard her. I was
yeah?
like, this girl's going to be really, really big.
She's
I could just
blown
tell.
out big time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think you needed a keen eye to see this. I don't think this was like spotting Giannis in a gym in Greece kind of thing. I mean, like I'm not saying I acted like I did anything remarkable with that, but it's what I really enjoy too. Another thing, I was telling my wife this the other night, that like I enjoy when you encounter an artist, like it's a special thing. Like I remember somebody posting, I was on some forum and they posted a video. They were like, this girl has been performing in like record shops. And this was back in like 2007. They were like, this girl is amazing. She is a really great songwriter. She's like got like Michael Jackson performer level energy. And there was just these like videos that somebody had posted, and it was Janelle Monáe before she blew up. And I remember watching them, and she had this cool haircut and everything. And I was like, God damn. I mean, some people just have that superstar thing. And I was comparing it to when I saw John Morant. My father-in-law was like, you got to come see. He calls the Morehead State games. He was like, you got to come up and see this kid that plays for Murray, And I was like, all right, cool. And I went, and it was like that. It was like seeing a talent in a room. Like I saw Tame Impala in Louisville, like in this smaller room before they blew up. They were going to get big. But it was just cool to see them in that, like, you're way too good to be here. What's going on with this?
I mean, Janelle Monáe is a great comp, like a great example for like the John Morant thing. Cause I saw her, I wrote a college essay on her, by the way, like on her album, Electric Lady.
Oh, wow.
I wrote a college essay on that album my last year of school, and I photographed her concert that year. And there's some of the best photos I've ever taken, because she any picture you take of her on stage with her energy is a good photo. She just makes it easy for you. And she is such an amazing performer and singer. Now she's acting and stuff.
She's good.
She's awesome. She's great,
what a
man.
talent.
She's super great. Who was the other artist you just mentioned there? Tame Impala.
I saw Tame Impala like right when Lonerism came out, and we were like in there, and I had that.
Oh my God, are you serious?
It was.
Wow.
I mean, I think Headliners it's not a huge venue, but I was like way too good. UMO, similar experience. Like we saw Grizzly Bear on their like release tour for Shields, which I think was like fall of 2012. And UMO opened for them, and I didn't know anything about them. And I was like, what the hell? I was like, they just were unbelievable. I just love when that stuff happens. It's fun. It's fun. It's a fun discovery moment. It's thrilling, Kevin. The moment of discovery is thrilling. That's what I'm trying to say.
It's very cool to enjoy an artist or a band before they really make it big. The one other last music story, the inverse. I saw Muse I've saw Muse twice in small venues. Not when they were young and not when they were upcoming, during, in the America and the origin of Symmetry days. They were big in Europe still then. But, I think it was like 2012 and 2015 or something like that. They played Hollywood Palladium in LA and some venue in New York. And my friend and I waited in line for like 8 hours to get near the front of the stage after luckily getting tickets for the show in New York 10 or so years ago. And it's also cool to see a band that has made it then play a show like they used to when they were coming up. They tap into that old energy, right? And it's like for them to be in a small space with a lower ceiling and a intense crowd like they used to have in the olden days when they were young. That's a cool experience too. Like I would encourage anybody to go to, if you hear of a band that's playing a small venue, try to go to that. Instead of seeing them in the arena, just try to go to the small venue. It's always so much more intimate. And I don't know. I love something about, you say standing sometimes can be, painful over a long show, but if it's a good energetic show, there's nothing like the sweat and next to a full crowd of people singing along with songs with this intense, passionate crowd. There's nothing like that if you're able to experience it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a threshold where like you're a certain level of band where it's like I guess it's a money decision for most bands, but if you get big enough, you could make the choice, I guess, to play a venue like that. I mean, I that seems like a rare opportunity that I haven't really gotten to do that one, and it's less if I'm moving and stuff, it's fine, but it was it was a pretty stiff kind of like nerdy crowd that like they weren't really dancing, so like we were like my wife and I we'd love to dance, but like we were just kind of standing still. And the standing
dance
still
anyway,
part
Kyle.
Yeah,
dance.
You could dance like no one's watching, Kev. Yeah.
Beat Bill Walton. Bill Walton goes crazy at Grateful Dead shows. He just does his thing. Nobody cares. Just dance, Kyle.
Always aspire to be like Bill Walton. Funny,
if they take pictures of you, like these little teenage kids with X's on their hands, and if they say, like, look at those those old people dancing. Look at them. And you pop up on their TikTok, fuck them. Who cares?
I'm not worried about
makes
that.
You happy. I know. I'm just saying. Just dance.
I'm not worried about that. Don't worry about it. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
That wasn't the retion why.
Okay. I just want you to dance and be comfortable, Kyle.
I appreciate your encouragement. It's welcome. Thank you.
Okay. We'll end it there, Kyle. You can go.
What
dance.
A music.
Yeah.
That was fun.
But thank you so much, Kyle. We'll be back again next week. Maybe talk a little bit more playoff young guys next week. And I'm sure we'll have more draft stuff to talk about as well.
Good to see you, Kev.
Thank you so much to Jesse Lopez for producing this week's episode of the Ringers NBA Draft Show. Thank you for listening. Please be sure to subscribe to us if you are not yet. That really does help the show. Thank you again. Have a great rest of your weekend.